just said related to that, as far as like the inscriptions, the temples, and all the columns, and everything is very devotional. And so I think he made the point, hopefully you got it, that even though they're not like specific teachings related to all of this deep philosophy, that this also, it affects you very deeply. First of all, you feel minuscule as a personality. You realize that God really doesn't need you. So your ego just kind of dwindles in that. You realize that compared to what the divine and what you feel just like very insignificant egoistically. So that allows your ego to dwindle down, and so the spiritual aspect can be there. And then you see these offerings, and you see the kings constantly making offerings to the divine everywhere, and it impresses you because it makes you feel that when you come back from there, the big effect as you start to do your work, and you start to remember that everything is an offering, and all your work is an offering, and everything that you do should be an offering to the divine, because it's constant offering this, offering incense, everything that they do, they're offering. They offer mud, they offer a tree, they offer, and it gets into your skin, it gets into every aspect of your being, and very, very deeply, very profoundly.
So it's a high philosophy in that sense, in the sense of that spirit of offering, the spirit of devotion. But I mean, it's not like a high philosophy in the sense of wisdom teaching. Better. These are different books that are inscribed on the walls as you walk in to the different tombs. There will be some of the descriptions from the Purdom Haru, some of them from different texts that you have not heard of before, that we have not dealt with in the class. These are actually based on the same Kemetic teachings of the pyramid texts. However, they go in different directions. They're parallel to the Purdom Haru tradition, but they're in different direction. Like the Book of the Gates, the Book of the Dua, the Book of, and different texts like that. All the way at the bottom, you have the burial chamber itself, where the sarcophagus is located, and everybody's looking in there. And the colors, many of the colors are still left, but you see where a lot of it is chipped. A lot of the, and those of you who've been attending class, you should recognize this this picture. It is Noon pushing out the boat.
Where's that one from?
From the same tomb, I believe it's tomb of Ramses VI. These are more inscriptions. This is the sarcophagus here, and this is the burial room here. You see vaulted here. You see Nut here. The sun is traveling through her body in the night journey, and this is the day journey. Here where he comes out as the sun does. I don't know if you can see it, the winged sun does. This is a adoration to Ma'at, the goddess Ma'at, by the king. Here you should recognize this picture also. Nefertum, yes, Khepri, who is laying on the bed of the Mehen serpent, who is in the primeval ocean. Mehen serpent with 5 heads. Actually, he's also known as the many-headed one. And this is the serpent of creation. Of course, that creation, that serpent is engendered by the single divine essence, which manifests as the Trinity. You have the 3 symbols of body, and these manifest as the multiplicity of creation. Here is a fire ritual. I want to include this for you to see. This throwing incense into the container that's being held in the left hand. Here is another, what? Now, that was a tomb of a king. Now we're going to the tombs, or what they call the tombs of the nobles, the royalty. And these are, again, the brown, red, and the yellow or white female. I believe this tomb is Rek Mira. There's a tomb next to the Rek Mira. This is Rek Mira. This is an extremely important tomb for me to have discovered. These inscriptions have been known to be there, but this particular segment here was of peculiar interest to me in studying the musical arts of ancient Egypt. You can see here a harp being used. You can see here a guitar. You can see on the inscription on the wall there. And you see me play the guitar. This is a drum. This is a square drum. This is actually a different kind of drum than what we have here. They use two kinds of drums. The circular as well as the square. And this is, in the tombs of the nobles, what you see are daily activities. And this is a particular, Rek Mira was a governor, and he oversaw all these activities being performed. He oversaw the city of Wazet. Different activities that were being done by women, by men. And up here you can see a lady playing what appears to be a cello. A bowed instrument. And this, to my knowledge, has been unknown in Egypt. It's one of the instrumental things that caused me to add bowed instrument to the Aradnet song. You know, Aradnet Akuasha. And that, you can go back and listen to that to get an idea of the impression. Up to now, you'll find that so many things that they've been saying that ancient Egypt adopted from the Middle East or from Mesopotamia, you come to find out when you do the research that it's actually the other way around. And we're going to see that also as we move on. And this is a close-up of that same spot. You see what she's doing. It's obviously a guitar-like instrument that is being bowed, like a cello or like a floor bass. It's quite a discovery, quite a wonderful discovery. Temple of Asar at Abdu is our next stop. We're going further south. Well, actually, we're going north now. We've been in Thebes, in Wazet. Now we're going a little bit north, because this is where the airport is. We go there, we go see everything that is there. And actually, you can stop there, go to your hotel, and you can walk to these sites if you like walking. And as you're walking, as you're trying to meditate on all the wonderful things that you're going to see, you're being accosted by people who are trying to sell you things, who want to give you a taxi ride, who want to otherwise deprive you of your savings for the trip. And you must be strong. You must be one-track mind. And so we take a 3-hour car ride or bus ride up to Abdu, or Abydos, as it is known now, and we go to the Temple of Asar. And now, mind you, keep in mind that we're in Upper Egypt. Upper Egypt is the early development of the country, which later moved northward, and then out into the Middle East and into India, as we saw in the Origins of Egyptian Yoga series. And this is the western. This is on the road to Abdu. This is again the western desert, the western, and this is where those tombs are cut into the western valley. And this is easy rock to cut. It's actually very easy. I believe it's a limestone, which is a sedimentary kind of stone. It's very easy to cut. But still, again, in the summer, you don't want to be doing much of anything. If you build anything or you do anything in Egypt, and you don't have air conditioning, you'll just die. It's just too much. So what happens is that people, in the middle of the summer, you find that people have working hours in the evening. When they're doing different projects, they're working all night and sleeping in the day. And of course, in ancient times, they wouldn't do anything. Nothing much would happen during the day, except in the early morning or the very late. It doesn't really start getting cool until like 11 p.m. 10 or 11 p.m. And you'll see little kids like these running around at 2 o'clock in the morning playing. And that was pretty amazing. Because you can't do it during the day.
Is the temperature any much different in ancient times?
It was a little different. It's probably a little bit hotter now because of the ozone layer depletion, because of the rainforest deforestation, and all the carbon monoxide, all those kinds of things. But it was still quite hot and cold. So now we get to Abdu, and here's a multitude of people. And this is actually from a different trip. This is, I believe, the second trip. The first time it was because you have to go there as a convoy. This is one of the temples that is in the outlying areas of the country, where there's strict control. Everybody has to go together, and you go as they call it a convoy, and several buses go together, and they only allow you if you're lucky, they allow you an hour and a half. This is my first trip. They allow you an hour and a half. And there's some kind of complication, they may allow you 15 minutes. And this is for a temple that you can live there for a year and exploring. So I've been there 3 hours. And this is the entrance, as I told you the other day. You had pylons here, which are no longer there anymore. There are people who live on both sides of the temple, and they have taken some of these stones already. There are other structures behind the temple. There's another temple of Ramses II. There are several other structures that you never get time to go see, unless you get special permission, which I have not been able to do yet. And also, with the time that we went last, there was a complication because of the trouble in the Middle East, and that caused complications all the way around. People were restricted all over the place because of what happened in 1997 or 1996 it was. That fundamentalists went to the Hatshepsut temple and they murdered several people, several tourists. But the security is such that it would be virtually impossible for that to happen now. They have the crime in Egypt for the whole country is, in comparison to like a city of New York, like where you guys come from, many of you guys come from, where you have like 1,000 or 1,500 people dying every year. They may have one murder a month over there for the whole country, that kind of thing. So, it's unfounded. The fear of going is unfounded. And they have eradicated the fundamentalist groups, and they have secret police that are infiltrating all over, and whenever they hear something, they immediately expel the people. Because they want to make money off of the tourist trade. This is taking a picture on the way out. Usually, every time I go, I'm the last one to leave the temple. And they're all upset at me because I'm holding up the convoy. But I don't mind. And I usually get some clean shots at the end of it. And it's like, you're...
Last time we lost the convoy. The driver was very upset because the convoy took off without us. We were driving. He was driving, trying to catch up. That made it worse.
They're going to leave you behind,
Huh?
They're going to leave you.
Oh, he was very upset because I couldn't find him. I didn't know where he was, so we were looking for him. Of course, I knew he was in the temple.
Well, the temple of Asar is just exquisite. It's just, here you can see the difference. It's the architecture with the square pillars. Different from what you saw in Luxor, which is and Karnak, which are the circular pillars. This particular was dedicated by Ramses II, which is Seti I's son. He continued the building of this section of the temple. because apparently Seti died in the middle of its construction. Also, this is one of the courts, as I discussed, one of the open courts. This is behind where the first pylons were that are not there anymore. So you see how you go up into the temple, and you go higher up into the inner shrine. The inner shrine room is the highest part of the temple. And here's a picture of the peristyle hall with the pillars in the periphery of the open court. And you see how the tops of the pylons of the columns are not there anymore. Going into the temple. Now here we see, especially in the section behind where it was built by Seti first. You see the round pillars, and all this area, like I showed you the other day, was uncovered. This is all restored area. You look at the old pictures of the Egyptologists from the 18th century and the late 18th century, early 19th century, you see that this is all uncovered area. This is all destroyed and all torn down. These are the shrines. The temple of Seti I is one of the unique ones that has 7 shrines related to, again, the house of Asar, the mythological house of Asar, which has 7 entrances. And Asar is the bull of the 7 goddesses. He is also manifesting as the 7 energy centers of the psycho-spiritual body, as we said before. Between each shrine entrance, there is a niche where you have an image of the divinity being made offerings to them and also getting anointing. And here, people can walk freely again. In ancient times, that just would not be the case. It just would be impossible. It would be only for initiates and the king and queen.
Question. May I interrupt? Okay, no, I won't. I'll hold it for later.
Yeah, probably better not.
It's related to the picture.
It's related to something here?
I'm just curious if you can see that picture where the chamber room that you said the glorious light meditation was taken from.
Well, that is from, remember we went to Thebes and the tombs of the kings? And we went with symbol of Ra, was being adored. That's in that area. And that particular tomb is closed because it's caving in. And so there don't allow people to go in unless they catch it off. They went there. Many people there, and you can pay off the right person, that kind of thing. And which has not materialized yet. Here, the figure of this is next to all of these shrines are dedicated to different divinities. One is to Amun, one is to Ra, one is to Ptah, to Asar, Aset, Heru. This one to Amun, you see Amun being anointed with unguent or oil on his forehead. Now this is the shrine of Asar. Asar is the only shrine that has a doorway to the back room. So you go behind the shrine. This is where the boat would be kept of Asar. All the divinities have boats. We must realize that they all have boats because they are all the movers of creation. They are all the creators. If you look at their iconography and their mysticism individually in their particular temple, they are the divinity to be adored because they are the divinity of creation. They all have their boats thereby. They all come into creation. They all engender creation. As you go behind this room, where this gentleman is walking, you see several other rooms. And here are 3 shrines for Asar, Aset, and Heru. And then across the way, you see before we leave the slide, you see the soot from the fire. And here would have been, you can see still the color is left of wonderful pictures of the sky and the stars. Offerings on both sides. And these are offerings, or offering formulas. They're like chants. They're like the mantras. And once again, they're not wisdom teachings. They are formulas for devotional practice. And some of them which you have already received in many ways already. This is going inside that room and turning towards the right. One of the shrines is the shrine to Goddess Aset. And you see that she is yellow here, holding the sistrum, and Seti first is giving her an offering. Also, his color is red. Heru is behind her, supporting her. If you look the other way, which I don't have a picture here because it would have been too much to put it in here, all the way across the room, that hallway, where the gentleman is, you look this way, you see 3 rooms that are juxtaposed directly against those 3 shrines. And then there you have pictures of Asar being resurrected. Now we're going to travel a little bit south. We went to Abdu, now we're going to go south again. But not far south where Thebes is. We go to Dendera, where the Het Heru temple is. Now here is the walkway to the temple. This is where a mud brick wall, a huge mud brick wall, which still part of it is still there, goes all the way around the whole temple complex. And you see it's a large area. And this is the gateway into the temple area. Of course, this means that this was where the ordinary population would be allowed, and inside this area they would be allowed for several reasons. One of them is for festivals. One of them is because there's a hospital right inside this area. There is a birthing house also inside this area. But they would not be allowed inside the covered area of the temple. And this is, you're going to see different architecture here. This is a New Kingdom, what's called a New Kingdom temple, or a Greek period temple. It's called Ptolemaic temple. So the architecture is a little different, influenced by the Greek rulers, the Ptolemies. What you see here now is the same area, but shortly after it was discovered in the 1800s, the late 1800s. What you see here is sand from the desert after the temple had been partially uncovered. The temple was covered almost all the way to the top when it was discovered. And this is here with the temple uncovered. The temple here, several structures that were around the temple. Here, the hospital is here. Hopefully you'll see a picture. I think I include a picture here. Also you have as I said, the birthing house, which is on the right here. There are 2 birthing houses that were dedicated by the kings. One of the things that the early Christians did is that they tried to what is called enculturate, what is called take over, basically take over the sacred sites and put their own stamp, their own name on them. And what you see here are stones taken from the temple to make a Christian church. This is one of the first and earliest Christian churches that is still standing in Egypt. You see here several areas of the church that you see in modern churches. These would have been the pillars, and they had niches for the Christian divinities. Actually, a very similar way that the ancient Egyptian temple was set up in many ways. And here's the temple, looking at it from the side.
So they built a Christian church right next to the temple?
Right in the temple complex. This is inside the gateway that we looked at. This is right next to the temple. And here's a close-up of the temple itself. See, and they scratched out, and what you do is shave down the stone. So you shave down where the hieroglyphic inscription is, and you make your own inscriptions on top of that then. And what they did here, you see the Christian cross. Here is the Holy of Holies, with the characteristic Roman arch that is like a conch shell, like a now going inside the temple, leaving that behind. Now we're going in this entranceway here, the main entrance, which is this. You see these fantastic columns with the head haru, what is called a capital. The capitals of the columns are the top of the columns. And cut into the column is the face of the goddess. On the top of the column is a sistrum. This is the main instrument of the goddess. It is the way by which she awakens the higher spiritual sensibility in a human being. Again, all of these are offering formulas where the kings are offering. Once again, the kings are the initiates. It's a metaphor for initiate. The king creates the temple, but actually he creates it for the initiates, and which he is one of. He is actually the head of the church, the head initiate, the head of the religion. Looking up here.
I was going to say that's another message that you don't get when you listen to the tour guides. That you just have these, what they tell you, we're telling people is that beings basically just want to, especially with the Ptolemaic and when the Greek and Roman were there, that basically they want to be able to use the people. So what they do is that they build these temples so that the people will continue to feel that they're trying to help them and support them. So they give the people a little bit of what they want is essentially what they say. So then that they can continue to use them and to control them and to dominate them. That's what they tell you. That then the kings are basically not part of the whole thing. And basically the kings are depicted as giving offerings to the gods because you see, they tell people that it's a psychology behind it, and the psychology behind it is that if you, right, say you worship this religion, and you see now their king, right, they see their king worshiping your gods, then you're going to believe that that king is one of you, and therefore when this king tells you to do whatever, that you're going to do whatever this king says willingly because you are basically being brainwashed through the temples that this king is one of you, that this king. So that's
what they tell you.
That the tour guides will tell you. So you lose the whole mystical aspect of the kings being the initiates. And understand why they're offering these. They tell you that they're offering to the gods and goddesses also. The other thing is so that the god and goddesses will then bless their land and they can continue to be kings and powerful. But they tell you that in an egoistic sense, so they can continue to rule and dominate egoistically, not in terms of the whole spiritual and mind aspect of it.
And here's looking in the other direction. This is what's called the hypostyle hall again. Hypo means many, and it means many pillars. So it's like the papyrus thicket where you have lots of plants. And you're coming out of that, going further into the temple. And you can see, you can get an idea of the massive, the sheer awe that it gives you to be there. Look at the doorway. And look at the size of the person. And here you have the inscription. You have the winged sundus, you can see it very well, which is above all of the doors. Remember, it was decreed by Jehuti, after the certain resurrection mystery was over, that this all-encompassing divinity should be on the top of all of the temple doors as a symbol of protection, to protect the divinity, and to protect anyone who comes under it. And here we're moving inside the temple as we make the procession in.
In a relative sense, I was going to say in a relative sense, this was probably my favorite temple of all of them. In that relative sense, they all had their. For me, this one gave me the most insight into it because it was most complete, I guess. And everything, the carvings and everything were so beautiful. And the reliefs were so beautiful, and they were so precise, and they were so exact, and they were so detailed that what the minds, or the mindless minds that were there that created this, the thoughtless minds that created this, not thoughtless but thoughtless in that higher sense, where everything was just so precise and so devotional and so beautiful. Which one was this? can't tell you. And it had a whole,
The head of a temple.
to me, it had a whole certain energy to it because there was so much there. There was just like so much there. It was like,
And all those that you used a few,
and
like
these, right.
an
And we
hour
didn't-
to go to
Right,
go
we
in.
didn't have a lot of time, but even like walking up, and these were things I think that you told me before you mentioned, like when you were walking up the stairs to go to the roof, you can see actually the reliefs and carvings of the initiates carrying the different devotional offerings, and they're depicted on the walls as you're walking up. You can see the scenes of, in each area. You can see what the initiates were doing in that area because it's carved there. You don't have to guess, and then you can see where they're in all in a line walking down again with the offerings after they've made the offerings. So.
You'll see that. Okay, so there is a fire, as you see here coming up, destroying the roof. And the roof had an exquisite picture of Newt and all of the symbols of the zodiac, which are blacked out, but you can see part of them still there. Now moving closer into the inner shrine, and this is of course an area of the temple that ordinary people would never be allowed to. All of these areas had doors. There was a door in the very front of the temple, a door here, which is the antechamber, what's called the antechamber, the room before the inner shrine. The inner shrine, as I've told you before, is a separate building from the temple itself. And you see how you have to go up one flight, one level, into the shrine, up one level from this area. All of the carvings, you see here again, devotional of offerings. In the middle here would have been a stone that we're going to see later in some of the other temples where the boat of the goddess would have been kept. And the shrine chamber, which is no longer there. This little building is separate, as I say, from the entire building. It is like a transcendental room, as it were, beyond the trinity of the temple symbolism itself. Here's that room that Karen was talking about. One of the stairways, and you can see how on each side, this is the stairway going up. You can see the initiates and the king carrying a standard, the priests and priestesses carrying different items for offering. The clergy of the Temple of Dendera were men and women. And you can see them on both sides. And also there are some inscriptions here. Some of the things, inscriptions talk about what they are carrying, if it's oil or if it's bread, and so on and so forth. Is that close up? And as you walk up to the roof of the temple, you get to see some marvelous things. Like for instance, these are some power lines that have there now. But this is the back of the temple we're looking at. We came from the other side, which is green. And you can see the green, and you can see the Nile River. And going back to this side, you can see the mountain. You can see the desert. And this is the roof of the ceiling, roof of the temple itself. You can go walk back this way where this gentleman is coming from. But right underneath here are some very, very special rooms that we're going to take a look at. And here's the back of the temple area, which is all enclosed by a mud brick wall. Here's looking to the left. There's another gateway. Here you can see again, you can see some of the houses, some of the greenery, and then there's desert back here. This is one of the chapels. In ancient times, the statue of the goddess would have been brought up at the beginning of the new year, would have brought up to the ceiling of the roof, to the roof of the temple, in order to meet the rays of the newborn sun, which is of course is Heru. In doing so, this whole ritual that would be involved in doing this, it means that the goddess becomes pregnant with the new year. Pregnant with, and metaphorically, what that means is that the cosmos is maintained, the order is maintained. In a higher sense, it also means that there's a union, there's a tantric union between the spirit and matter that is going on. And that ritual would have been part of what they're carrying up all those offerings for, and that festival for. This is one of the chapels where they would make a stop as they perform these rituals. Also, another ritual that was important at the temple of Heru was the resurrection ritual, the resurrection of Asar, and the Asarian mysteries that you experience on Sunday. In the antechamber rooms to the resurrection rooms, there are some resurrection rooms we're going to see in a few minutes, show you the pictures of the resurrection itself, how Asar is being resurrected, how Asar is being reborn, or his body is being reconstituted, so on and so forth. You see these images on the ceilings. And this is the colorized picture, so you can see it better and make it out better. This is where we get the postures for the Jeff Neteru system. The goddess Nut bending over the god Geb. And here we have the goddess Nut outstretched across the heavens. And you see the blackness of the soot from the people living in there. In ancient times, they did not use the same materials for making light. They had other oils and other things that did not burn, did not make smoke.
I heard that they would scratch the faces and the noses off of figures.
Yes.
Deliberately done.
Yes, that did happen. But I think a lot of people say that it's the Christians. I think they did do some damage, but I think the Arabs did a lot of damage also. Especially the fundamentalists. When you're a fundamentalist, you can't live with anybody that doesn't say what you say, or doesn't do what you do. So, the Orthodox in any religion. And this is the image that you're seeing here. I just put this in so you can see it. This comes from a sarcophagus in one of the museums. It's the same image. And that's Goddess Nut. Now here, if you can make it out, these are pictures of the resurrection. And these are the chambers behind where the exercise, where the movement, the postures are. The posture rooms. This is the leonine bed. And this is Asar on the bed. I believe it's Heru leaning over him on this particular shot. And this is basically the kind of scenes that you're seeing, although you can't hardly see them unless you really look closely, unless you're really there. You look at the Asarian Resurrection book and you see how I put all these pictures in there. The drawings. See these drawings? Body is being reconstituted. Here he's ejaculating and impregnating a set. Here he's raising up from the dead, from the bed itself. Now, still from the ceiling, when we come out of those rooms, we look out from the roof. If we look out into the precinct, into the enclosed area of the temple, we see the divine pool. And this symbolizes the primeval ocean. Initiates, priests and priestesses will go there and bathe before entering into the temple. Also, the divine boat would be ritualistically floated here. Now, they have palm trees growing out of it. This came out a little. So now we're going down. This is the stairway going down. You see the priests and priestesses going down. Now we're going to go to the Temple of Heru. Now we just came from the Temple of Heru. Now we're going to the Temple of Heru, which is her counterpart. These temples geographically face each other. The Temple of Heru faces south. The Temple of Heru faces north, and they mystically relate. But first we're going to look at some things that have been discovered in Nekhen. Nekhen is known as Hierakonpolis, which means the city of the falcon, the city of Heru. This is the ancient city. And I myself have personally not been there yet, although I've been doing a lot of research on it. This is where the earliest hieroglyphics have been, some of the earliest hieroglyphics have been discovered here and in Abdu. And they've shown that these are earlier than the Mesopotamian inscriptions, the cuneiform, which, of course, still the modern message on this is that Mesopotamian writing is the first writing that has ever been created, and here we have scholarly evidence which is not being put out there. That is other discoveries that here are Kampalas, black and red pottery, and many other things that are showing a civilization and culture which goes back in time to the pre-dynastic period, which relates to the dynastic period, bringing forth the motifs, bringing forth the images of the gods and goddesses and the teachings. Here you have, for instance, an ithothallic figure, which is a precursor or proto-min, and the goddess. And this is a pre-dynastic Egyptian. We have here, this is a slide that's going to be in the History of Egyptian Yoga series that we haven't gone to yet. This is from the Indus Valley. I just wanted to show you the comparison so you can see the image and how Indologists who have done excavations, they have remarked that how you can't tell them apart. The pottery, ancient pottery from Egypt and the ancient pottery from the Indus Valley, from India. So now we move on to the modern temple of Heru, which is in the city of Edfu. Again, it's a Ptolemaic period temple, and it's very similar in architecture. Going further south, here we have the two pylons, and the doorway, which is flanked by two falcons. You can see how large they are in comparison to the person. This is the open court area where the public would have been allowed. Behind us here is right behind us, this is looking back now from the edge of the temple, the open area. Right here is a birthing house. And it's very interesting, the birthing houses, so you can go there and see them. You can see the goddesses with their tambourines, the round tambourines, like we have here. They're playing the music and playing the sistrums. And you get the feeling of music being incorporated into the birthing process. And this is something that New Age people are now doing. They're having people giving birth in tubs and in all kinds of different positions and with meditation and all kinds of different things. And here's one of them. The picture of Goddess Aset with playing the sistrum, playing the hand drum. And I believe this is the child Heru with the sistrum in his hand. This is one of the columns of the birthing house. Now we go further into the temple beyond the pylons, and we go to the inner open court and the peristyle hall with the columns on the periphery. And we go to the covered area, and here is a very famous statue of Heru. Everybody goes there and takes pictures in front of the statue. And it's very exquisite in the face, to see the face and the expression. And you see the crown of Upper and Lower Egypt. So this is Heru Sa-Asar Aset, who has become Heru Ur. But this temple is for Heru, what's called Heru Bedhead. It's a particular Heru of this locality, which is the same. They're all the same Heru, but it's a different nuance of the myth. It's all one piece of stone that's being carved out. Now we're going into further. This is a picture of the peristyle hall, looking back from where we are at the statue. Now we're moving into the covered area. Here you see a panel where Heru and Jehuti are pouring water over the king. And what this symbolizes is the purification. When you're pouring water over, it is a purification. It means ab, purity of heart. So Heru and Jehuti are purifying the king. Here you have Ankh, Uas, Ankh, and then Uas, Ankh, Uas, and Neb. Means the flow of life, the flow, and all. And there are several other descriptions, we don't have time to go into it. Now we have a series, a very important series of inscriptions on the western side, I believe, of the temple, where you can go and see Heru spearing a hippopotamus. And you go through and you see him spearing the hippopotamus 10 times. And we have some pictures of this already in the Asar and Resurrection also. You can see some of them. Here he's being assisted by his mother Aset. Remember the Asar and Resurrection where he was assisted, where Aset went and speared the hippopotamus and then he got upset about it when she released him. The 10 is symbolic of the number of Heru. Heru's number mystically is the number 10. He's the number of perfection and creation, as we discussed earlier. And this is the inner shrine of the temple of Heru. This is the what is called naos, or the niche. It's like a specific, like a little building, and it would have had a door in front of it, which is missing now. The image would have been kept inside here. And you can see the size of the image by looking at the size of the person standing in front of it. Look at the wing disc, the double wing disc. Again, this room, very tall, ceiling, is separate from the rest of the temple. Right in front of where they're standing here is a pedestal stone where the boat would have been kept. The boat of the divinity, when they take the divinity out for the ritual, the mystical journey. Also, there was a ritual where the divinity of the temple was led out and to perform certain rituals, but also Heru was taken on her boat also Mut was taken to the Amun temple so that they can cohabitate together for a period and engender the new year, become pregnant with the new year again. Of course, these are further inscriptions relating to the divinity. A lot of these you'll find, especially some of them have inscriptions on the back. They are so worn down by people touching them, as well as by the defacing action, that they're very hard to read. This is a picture with nobody standing in front of it. And this is the boat, or this is a replica of one of the boats that you would have the image on, and you would have 4 priests carrying the boat in a procession with an entourage behind. And this same boat is what you see inscribed on the walls of the temples. And you can see actually the procession being carried out. And it tells you what is going on. This is the pedestal stone where the boat was sitting. Of course, this is the most sacred part of the temple, and gawking visitors would not be allowed at all. So we travel further south now. We go to the temple of Sebek and Heru-Ur. It's called Kom Ombo in modern times. This temple is a unique temple. It is like a temple chopped into 2 and chopped in half. Half of it is dedicated to Heru, half is dedicated to Sebek. And you can tell by the inscriptions on the top here, which you can't see because it's too far away for this particular shot. But you see you have two sundis, two winged sundis, two entrances. And in this temple they kept pet crocodiles in the back section of the temple. Very nice temple because the columns still have, especially the ones to the right here, you can't see them here, they still have lots of color left on them. Okay, here we go. The inscription here tells you that this temple is dedicated to Sebek, this temple is dedicated to Heru. You see their symbols here. All this, of course, would have been covered in ancient times. You see it's covered on this side. The stones have been destroyed. You see the Ptolemaic capitals. They have multiple motifs on them that would not have been done in the more ancient times. Here you have the king, crown of Upper and Lower Egypt. You can tell us the king. But then, of course, as we keep on saying, the king is always Heru. Heru is the perfected being on earth, offering incense and offering libation. Here we have the king being protected by Aset and Nebuchadnezzar, who are the two goddesses of the serpent power. And here Sebek is presiding, holding the Uaz scepter. This is Ptolemaic inscription. It's a late period hieroglyphic. It's a little different and you have to be specialized in reading it, but you can tell some of the basic inscriptions. This is the cobra goddess. And here you have this motif of the caduceus present. This is the lotus. And on this side you can see it's caught in the dark a little bit, but this would be the papyrus divinity. The papyrus serpent, the lotus serpent, which are again Aset and Nebuchadnezzar, the goddesses of the psycho-spiritual serpents. This is, when we look back from the entrance of the temple, you can see that the boats of the tourists laid out right there. You can get there by bus or by boat. And the Nile is right there as well. Here in one of the rooms in the back, we can see Heru and with his mother Aset receiving offerings of the eyes by the king. These are special rooms in the back where most people don't go. This is the pedestal stone where the divine image would have been kept in ancient times. And this is what's left of it. You see the destruction, that it would have been square. Underneath here, you have special pits and special grottos, shall we say, where the different items for the temple were kept, as well as the crocodile. And these are the rooms that we just came from, the back here. That's what this is. This image is here. And we're going to go behind this wall here, behind each room here, to see what there is. Right in the middle of the temple, you have these two eyes that were being offered before. You have the winged sundis, this cutting right to the middle of the temple. This is the goddess Maat, who's standing over the niche. Also, one of the myths of this temple is that it originally was a temple of Sebek, and then when Heru had his trouble, when he was running away from Set, he was in the battle, and so on and so forth, he needed a place to rest, he needed a place to recoup. And so it was allowed by Sebek and Maat. They allowed him to come there and become part of that temple. So here's all the ears and all the eyes to hear and see this, to know this. Now we're going to go further south. We're going to see the limits, boundaries of the land of Egypt. where they have now created a structure called the Aswan Dam. The Aswan Dam was created in order to control the Nile River. It holds up 2 to 3 years of Nile floods, so that the river does not overstep its banks. And you see now they have many structures that are created right next to the riverbanks. If the Nile was to flood now, all those structures would be destroyed. Also, part of the problem was that there are so many people now in Egypt that they cannot feed, it was trouble feeding the people because the agriculture was difficult to plan on. The waters of the Nile would come and flood. Sometimes it would flood a lot, sometimes it would flood less. So this makes it more predictable. However, the problem with this is that now the silt that was deposited by the Nile floods, which flowed over all the way into the green areas, does not do so anymore. They irrigate it now by different channels and by motorized machinery, so on and so forth. And this does not replenish the land. So there are some ecological problems that are already developing because of this.
Question is along the Nile, is that showing where it inundates, or is that just showing where the life can exist?
The blue is where the Nile normally flows, and the green is where it would tend to inundate. And this is also where people will live at the edge of where it inundates and the desert, like just within the inundation, and they would elevate their dwellings. And of course the temples would be located outside of the area. They would be in the desert area, as you saw before, the Het Heru temple. Now here you have a picture of the Aswan Dam. It's a huge structure. We just saw a show on that on the History Channel. It's a fantastic structure, fantastically big, and fantastically massive, and fantastically it's a big feat. This is the southern portion. This is on this side here is where we come from the north. This is the southern portion. This portion is all the backed up Nile, which has backfilled a huge area. It's like 300 million cubic meters, something like that. It's a huge number. And what it has done is that it has backfilled and flooded whole villages and whole archaeological sites and temples, and many people were very upset about this. The Nubians who were living there, they were very upset. They were relocated. Some of the temples were moved because otherwise they would have been completely flooded all year. They would have been completely lost. But I suspect that if you go scuba diving, you can find certain things there even now. Seriously. You can't see it very well. This is a temple that was rescued, that was moved from down here. The Kalabsha temple is a Nubian period temple. This is what you see from the Aswan Dam. And I started taking pictures, and they don't allow you to take pictures because they're afraid they're going to use them to give it to the Israelis, so the Israelis can, as if the Israelis need my pictures so they can come and destroy the dam. We're getting on to, okay. Try to get through this section at least for here. This is the tombs of the nobles in Aswan now, in the south. This is where governors and royalty would have been buried, the same way as in Luxor, we saw in Thebes, the Wazir, but this is more ancient. This is more ancient times. And you can see that in the quality of the inscriptions. You can see that in the quality of the construction of the temples. It's not as elaborate. The inscriptions are in much greater deterioration. But we can't make out what that is. And these were areas that the family of the deceased could come and make offerings. So they acted as chapels as well as burial places. And now we better leave that there for this particular tape, and we may consider to continue this tomorrow, since we have, I think it probably has like another hour to go, judging the way we're moving, unless you want to stay and continue. Stay? Okay. So go ahead and change. I think you need to find another.